If you was walking down the road on a dark night and you saw a 50-foot version of this whiz past you in the sky, wouldn't you think it was some kind of a spaceship or a UFO? Just look at the microphones on it. Don't they look like rocket boosters? Well, I hate to disappoint you, but it's not a UFO or a spaceship. It's actually a linear PCM recorder. And what that means is it can record in an uncompressed format, which translates to very, very high quality recordings. Unfortunately, this also translates into huge file sizes, but luckily we also have the option to save in a compressed MP3 format as well, if required. But we're not here to promote this product or talk about its features. We're here today to talk about the problems we're having with it and how to repair it. So let me give you some background information into this first. I purchased this recorder in 2011 for £399 British pounds, and at the time it was basically the bee's knees, or commonly referred to here in the UK as the dog's tickly bits. What I'm trying to say is it was one of the best portable recording solutions available at the time. I have recorded many live events with it directly from its external mics and through a line output from a mixer, and the recordings have been outstanding to say the least. I currently use it to record the audio for all my YouTube videos, and the reason why I like it so much is because it has a low cut filter. What a low cut filter does is reduce most of the hissing sounds you get at the bottom of recordings. You know, like the shh sound in the background. But just recently, like this year, I noticed it started playing up. So what would happen is the power on mechanism, it works off a slide switch, monitor it on and monitor it off. I would push the switch and it would take longer than usual to register the movement. This gradually increased to longer and longer durations, and then eventually it would not start at all. Now, I did a bit of research and I found that Olympus have many more models that use this same slide switch mechanism, but I was not able to find a single reference or video about this issue I was experiencing. Nobody, to my knowledge, has documented this issue or made a video about it. This model is discontinued now, and I was not able to locate any of the parts I needed to repair it or the schematics. Well, I found out what the problem is, and today I'm going to show you how to repair it without needing to replace any parts whatsoever. So let's get started. Okay, so for the rest of this recording, I'm going to have to switch over to recording directly from the mixer, and the audio may not be as nice as it is when it comes off here, so I apologize for that in advance. 1, 2, 3 screws from this back cover here. Okay, so let's do that now. Okay, now I want to make you aware of something here. These speakers, the grills here, they have like a rubber adhesive underneath with a filter on top. So when you're pulling this off, when you're pulling this section here off, just do it gently, gently, gently. And what you can do is, if you want to help it, you can apply a little bit of heat around here and here, but you've got to be careful because obviously the speakers are underneath. And then what will happen is this back cover here, it will just come off slowly. Okay, get something like a piece of plastic, and you can just wedge it from the top here, slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay. Okay. Can you see what I mean? There's like a piece of rubber here. Okay, and there's like a mesh filter over the speakers. So just be careful when you're taking it off that you don't put too much force, because you're going to rip all of this off. Part of my filter is stuck on the back here, but that's okay, because these speakers here, they're not critical for what we use it for, so that's not a problem. You've got 2 rubber grommets here can take them off if you want and put them to a side somewhere safe. You'll install them back when you're going to put it back together. What you're going to have to do is there are 1, 2, 3 and 4 screws that you're going to have to remove. Okay, once you remove those 4 screws, this aluminium cover will just gently slide off, and that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so once you've got that cover off, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to remove this little plastic piece here. Okay, put that somewhere safe, right? And then what you can do is you can also remove this membrane here, the membrane with all the switches on it. This is all one piece and it just comes off like that. Okay, and you put that somewhere safe as well. And now what you're going to be left with is the keypad and the PCB which it sits on top of. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove these 2 screws here. Okay, so let's remove these 2 screws and take it from there. Now, if you have a look here, this is where that slide switch is located, right here. So we want to get access to that slide switch. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove this PCB from the housing. It's quite simple. What you do, and it just clips out. Okay, so you can see this switch here is the one that we're interested in, this one right here. What you want to do is there's a flap here, right, just here. You want to get under this flap, and behind this flap underneath, on the inside, can you see a little connector inside there? Have a look inside there. There's a connector here, there, isn't there? So you need to get under this connector and you need to flip it up. You need to flip that flap up, which I'm going to try and do on the camera to show you. So watch what I do here. Can you see how I'm just flipping it up from one side, and then I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do the same. Can you see that? See what I did? Right? And what that does, it allows the flex for this LCD to come out. And once that comes out, then all you have to do is remove 1 screw from here. Okay, this 1 screw here, and you have to remove this 1 screw here as well. Then what will happen is this whole LED with the PCB will come off the board. Can you see how I've taken that out? It just comes out like that. Okay, so when you're taking this piece off here, this piece here, just be very gentle. Okay, you just gotta lift it slowly, and eventually it will come off. Okay, see, it just comes off like that. Now, just for reference, I'll show you what the inside looks like, but we don't need to touch anything here. Okay, this issue that we're having with this switch is not affected by anything on the rest of these components here. So this switch here is the problem child. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to move over to the microscope, and I'm going to explain to you how this problem arises, how to diagnose it, and how to fix it. So as I was saying, when I would move it to the hold position, I would get no response from the recorder. And when I would move it to the monitor on and the monitor off position, I would get no response from the recorder as well. It would not switch on at all. So I kind of figured out whatever the problem is, it's going to be somewhere in this region here, right? First of all, I thought, you know what, let me just buy a new switch. I'll replace the switch. I could not locate this switch anywhere. If you have any success better than I did, then please do leave links down below so people who come in the future, they can find it if they need it. But I've got a couple of solutions for this switch. But first of all, let me tell you, it's something that you wouldn't be able to figure out yourself unless you take this switch apart. Right, so I quickly want to show you what the readings of a working switch should look like. So if you put one point of your multimeter lead here and you put the other point here, right, and you put it into continuity mode, watch the readings on the top left corner of the screen. When you move it here into the monitor on position, you should have a continuous beep, right, 0.1 ohms. That means you've made a clear, clean-cut connection, right? And then when you move it into the other position, you put your multimeter leads here and here, and you move it into the hold position, you should also have a clear-cut continuity beep, right? So what happened, as I say, I've already fixed this switch, and I'm going to show you what I had to do to repair it. But when I originally came here, and when I was testing this switch, when I would test it from here to here, I was getting about 50 to 60 ohms, okay? And when I was testing it in the monitoring position here, I was not getting a continuous beep. The ohms would fluctuate up and down from 0 to 320, up and down, up and down, up and down, and I was not getting a continuous beep at all. So what I then did was I completely dismantled this switch, and I'm going to show you now what I found and what was causing that problem. Just looking at it from the top, you probably can't tell that this switch can be taken apart, but it's quite easy, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. What you have to do is you have to come up to this switch from this angle here. Can you see these points here on the switch? Point number 1 and point number 2. You have to come in with something underneath here, and you have to wedge these 2 points up past these 2 plastic bits here and here, okay? And then this top cover will just come off, right? So let's do that now. Right, so we've taken the cover off now. Here's the cover, the top cover. And here is the slide switch mechanism now. If we remove this, I'm going to show you what I found. Whatever you do, make sure you don't lose this spring, because it makes the slide mechanism spring back into place, and without it, it won't come back. It'll just go and stay there. So here's what I found. Now bear in mind, I've already repaired this one, but to show you what I've found, what I've done is I've used some ink here, some black ink, to show you, to demonstrate to you as near as possible to what I found. What I found was that the plastics from around here, right, over time they degrade and they fall under the mechanism of the switch. Can you see this mechanism here? So this mechanism slides back and forth over these tracks here, and what happens is the plastics from over here, because this is a plastic switch, they degrade over time, and it gets wedged between the tracks and this mechanism here. And what happens is, going back and forth, it creates a glaze, a very thin glaze over these tracks here, okay? And as you can imagine, if you've got anything covering the tracks between here and here, then when you switch the slide switch to the left, you're not going to be making any contact, right, between these 2 points here, okay? So that's all the problem was. Now, unless you open this switch, you would have no idea what the problem is, and I'm sure many people, you know, as I say, it's a £399 recorder, and, you know, I was really upset, you know, when it went naturally, as you would expect, when it went wrong and it wouldn't start anymore. I was really upset, and I was thinking to myself, where am I going to get parts for this? And then I thought, you know what, let me take it apart and let me see if we can figure it out. And we figured it out. So what I then proceeded to do was I got some PCB cleaning pens. Actually, let me introduce you to some new tools. Let's go back to the demonstration table. I want to show you what I used to clean this and how I got this back on track. Right, so I just quickly want to take a second to introduce you to some new tools. These here are called PCB cleaning pens, and they come in a few different varieties. So the way they work is basically, for example, let's take this one here, the fiber one, right? This here, the internals of this one is made of fiber. So if I bring it out here, what you do is you turn it from the end and it comes out like that, okay? And it's a very soft fiber, okay? So there are going to be times when you need to use something really soft because you don't want to damage. Like for example, in this situation here, it's a plastic switch, so we don't want to use anything too aggressive. So what I did was I dipped the end of one of these pens into some alcohol, and I gently just cleaned it, moved it back and forth, and cleaned it, and that took away the initial layer of plastic that had wedged between the mechanism and the tracks underneath. And then what I did was I came back with another one. For example, I've got one here made out of brass, right? And then what I did, because brass is quite soft, isn't it? It's not too hard. So then what I did was I came with the brass pen, and I finally went over it, over the tracks, and it came out nice and shiny and clean. So it was ready to be, reinstalled and put back together. So I wanted to show you these pens. They're amazing. You can get them off AliExpress, and they're dirt cheap. You're talking about £5 for the full set, including delivery to the UK. So, I mean, they come in a few different flavors. You've got one here which is made of nylon, right? If you have a look at that here. Okay. Now there may be some situation where you may need to use that. I haven't come across a situation just yet, so far, since I've been using them. And then you've got another one here that says soft. These are the labels that were actually on the pens. I just put my own labels on so if they rub off, I know what's underneath. This one here it's a similar sort of nylon, but maybe it's a bit, the hairs in there are a bit smaller. Okay, so you can see that, right? And then we've got another one which is made of steel. This is for maybe if you need to be a bit more aggressive, then you've got this. And the parts inside are actually about this long, so they come out really, really long. As you use them and as they wear out, you can move it more and more, and then you can even buy replacement bits for them from AliExpress as well. And it's really quite cheap. It's not expensive, and I would recommend anybody that works on PCBs or does electronics repairs does have some of these in their collection. Now, which ones have I showed you? I've showed you the nylon, the soft, the steel, the brass, and the fiber. Yep, you've seen all of them now. So let's get back to the microscope and let's clean up that switch. And what we're going to be using today is these two here, the fiber one and the brass one. So let's get back to the microscope. Okay, so we're back at the microscope, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to secure this spring, right? Whatever you do, you don't want to lose this spring because this is not something that you're easily going to be able to replace. So secure this spring and put it somewhere safe for now. Okay, and then you can remove the rest of this switch out the way as well. Right, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our fiber pen and we're going to dip it in some alcohol. Right, and we're just going to gently go over the tracks. And then what I did was, obviously you can see because I've already done it, look how clean my tracks are. But what I then did was I then took the brass fiber pen, right, and then I went over it just to give it that nice sheen and shine. So it would make a nice clean contact with the upper mechanism. And that basically all there is to it. All you got to do is assemble everything back in the order that we took it off, and your switch is going to work perfectly. So let's assemble it all and put it all back together. Right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to put our spring mechanism back to where it belongs. Okay, and we'll use the end of a sharp tweezer just to line it up. There we go. That's back in place. And what we will now do is we'll install the top of the slide switch. Right, so we've got our spring back in, and what we're going to do now is we're going to put our switch back into place. So you just turn it over, right? Just grab it from here, and you just sit it on top here, and it should just slide in. That's perfect. That's all there is to it, right? And you can see it's got that springiness there, so that's working. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take that cover that we took off earlier, and we're just going to pop it back into place. Right, now I want to mention something about the silver cover as well. What you can do is you can bend some of these back a little bit if you want. These two tabs here, this tab here and this tab here. So I'll do that live on the camera now. It's quite simple. All you do is you take your switch mechanism, right, and get one side covered first, whichever side you want, like that. And the other side will you can just put some pressure on it with a tweezer. And that's it. It clicks into place. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so the moment of truth has arrived. We're now going to install our batteries and see if our switch is working and functioning as it should. But before we do that, I want to give you another tip. In the past, I've always used NIMH AA batteries in my recorder. But recently I discovered these batteries here. The performance compared to NIMH batteries is just night and day. You've got to try some. If you do a lot of recording and you need batteries that last much longer in the same size and provide much more power, try lithium. That's just a little recommendation from me. So let's install them now and let's see if the switch works as it should. Okay, here goes. Here's our slide switch. Let's slide it and see if it comes on. Straight away. Works straight away. Well, another job well done. We just saved another very expensive piece of equipment from going into the trash. Not only did we save it from going into the trash, we saved it without replacing any parts whatsoever. So I'm quite happy with that. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you've got something to say, please do leave a comment down below. Bye for now and have a nice day.